You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken tech for your ears.
Welcome back to The Vocal Technologist. This is our Web3 Wednesdays chat, the InfoSec edition.
Glad to be here.
We're going to try and cut through some of the complexity today, look at what's happening in cybersecurity, the smart attacks, but also the clever defenses. Sort of a shortcut to staying informed without getting overwhelmed.
Exactly. It's always moving, isn't it? You see some real ingenuity on, well, both sides. We'll look at how breaches are evolving, but also, importantly, the counter strategies people are coming up with.
Okay, so let's start with something we're seeing more of. Supply chain issues. Pretty sneaky stuff, like those breaches at Zscaler and Palo Alto networks. The entry point there was compromised OAuth tokens. These came through the Salesloft Drift integration, which lots of companies use.
Right, those tokens are like digital keys. An app gets access without needing your actual password.
And the impact wasn't small, was it? It led to exposing customer contacts, Salesforce data, even sensitive stuff like AWS keys and Snowflake tokens. It just cascaded.
Yeah, and this really highlights how these attacks aren't just about that initial token. They leverage the trust you place in third-party tools, your attack surface. It's basically as wide as your integrations now. It's this implicit trust vector that's the real danger.
It's a systemic thing, not just one weak link.
Precisely.
And then sometimes it's less about that indirect trust and more, well, straightforward deception, like that malicious Go module. Golang random Ipsos brute force.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Sounded like a security tool, right? An SSH brute forcer. But nope, it was secretly stealing credentials, default IoT ones mostly, and sending them off to a Telegram bot.
And using sporsh.insecure-ignore host key to avoid being spotted.
Exactly. So you download something thinking it'll help secure your network, and it does the opposite.
That's a particularly nasty tactic, exploiting the trust people place in security utilities. And, well, it also shows that default IoT credentials are still a massive weak point. Just easy pickings.
Okay, so that's the bad news. But there are counter moves, right? People are getting smarter on the defense side, too. It's like with authentication. AWS is really pushing people away from those old, long-lived IAM access keys.
Yeah, those things can be a liability if they leak.
So they're offering alternatives, things like CloudShell, IAM Identity Center for command line access, the AWS Toolkit for your IDE, IAM roles for your CI/CD pipelines.
And the key idea there is moving towards ephemeral credentials, short-lived temporary access. It dramatically shrinks the window for an attacker if a key does get compromised. It's less about a permanent key, more about a temporary pass.
Makes sense. It forces attackers to constantly find new ways in rather than just using one stolen key forever.
Exactly. It changes the game from static defense to making the attacker constantly work for it. The real challenge is often getting organizations to adapt their processes,
Right, the operational shift.
Yeah.
And speaking of making security easier, there are tools like Tailscale SSH. It gives you web-based SSH access, but keyless. It uses those ephemeral authentication keys we were just talking about. You basically get a one-click encrypted tunnel from their admin panel. This is pretty slick.
Yeah, and tools like that are great because they lower the management burden. Good security shouldn't have to be incredibly complex to configure, right? Making strong encryption accessible helps avoid those simple human errors.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. What about newer areas like AI and LLMs? Security must be evolving there, too.
Well, absolutely. It's a whole new frontier for threats.
I saw something called mcp-context-protector. It's described as a security wrapper for LLM apps to stop things like prompt injection.
Yes, that's a big one. Prompt injection is where someone crafts input to trick the AI, maybe hiding malicious commands inside tool descriptions or using weird formatting like ANSI escape codes.
So this tool tries to catch that.
It essentially tries to sanitize the inputs, yeah. It looks at those descriptions and definitions to block attacks designed to hijack the AI's context or make it do things it shouldn't. It's crucial for this rapidly developing space.
We need security to keep pace with the tech itself.
Always!
Now, stepping back for a wider view, Infostealers. These seem, well, depressingly effective.
They've become incredibly common, like malware as a service.
Yeah, silent smash and grab was a term I saw. They can apparently hoover up all your credentials in minutes, bypass MFA using stolen session cookies.
And they're reportedly behind something like 90% of corporate breaches now. It's turnkey identity harvesting. These stolen logs, browser data, cookies, they get sold incredibly cheaply on dark markets.
$10 sometimes?
Sometimes even less. And that cheap initial access fuels much bigger attacks down the line. It's a whole dark economy.
And the real-world impact is huge. Look at Jaguar Land Rover recently. They had to halt operations because of a cyber attack.
Right. Even if customer data wasn't the main target initially reported, the operational disruption is massive. Production stops, sales stop.
It just grinds things to a halt.
And that really drives home how vital early detection and quick response are. Containing a breach before it causes that kind of operational meltdown can save millions, not to mention reputational damage.
So quite a range we've covered today, from those sneaky supply chain attacks and the prevalence of Infostealers.
To some really interesting defensive moves, like the shift in AWS authentication and tools emerging to protect AI.
It really shows how interconnected everything is. Attacks evolve, defenses evolve. It's constant.
It's a continuous cycle, absolutely. A digital arms race, in a way.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And it leaves you with a question, doesn't it? Given how easily one small vulnerability, one stolen token, can blow up into something huge,
Yeah.
how do we actually build systems, you, the listener, building things or just using them that aren't just secure by design, but are genuinely resilient when the unexpected inevitably happens?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Resilience, not just security.
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on The Vocal Technologist.
Spoken Tech for your ears.